over these last 30 hours of the content, the concepts, the speakers, the worship leaders, the atmosphere that you've created in your own environment as you've experienced Just Lead Conference 2021. I wanted to personally thank you for your attendance and your support of this ministry and its objectives to prepare preachers to preach. Now, don't forget, October of this year, meet us on the campus of New Orleans Baptist Theological Seminary, located right there on Gentilly Boulevard in the Big Easy. Conference information is already available for you on the website. Just go right to the registration link and you'll see the details there where you can secure lodging, your registration, and come to the campus as we experience Just Lead, the fall edition, right there at New Orleans Baptist Theological Seminary. You will be tremendously blessed. I thank you. I appreciate you. I love you, and keep on preaching. We'll see you in October. God bless you, and may heaven forever smile upon you. We're so excited to have this next artist come share with us all the way from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. He's anointed, he's relevant, he's saved, he loves God with all his heart. Let's receive Brother Jamal Mitchell as we prepare to go into this next session. Go ahead, Brother Jamal. We're so excited to have this next speaker come to us to embrace this Just Lead platform here. Dr. Courtney Colleton, who is a AME pastor serving in South Carolina. She's going to come to help us navigate the church into a virtual experience and the virtual age. As you know, we are immersed or have been immersed into this new culture. Zoom meetings, Zoom calls, Ustream, Restream, every stream, YouTube, Facebook Live. We've been going through this unique experience, and Dr. Colleton is here to help us to kind of understand how we can not just navigate the congregation safely, but how we can also help our pastors and leaders who are also navigating these spaces. So, Dr. Colleton, take it away.
Hello. My name is the Reverend Dr. Courtney Colleton, and I am the senior pastor of the historic St. James AME Church of Abbeville, South Carolina. Thank you to Reverend Dr. Willie Thompson for the opportunity to come and share with you at this Just Lead Conference of 2021 in your winter session. And I'm so grateful and glad to have an opportunity to come and share with you, each and every one of you. Just a little background about myself. I have been in ministry for over 15 years, pastoring for about 8 years now, and this is actually my third charge, and or what we call third church in the Methodist tradition. And so I'm grateful for having an opportunity to serve the wonderful, great people in Abbeville, South Carolina, which is located about close to an hour away from Augusta, Georgia, and also maybe about 45 minutes away from Greenville, South Carolina. We're a loving, faithful, affectionate church, maybe close to around about 150 members that are on the roll, and close to about 85. I see about 85 members who are in the median age around about 63. And so I'm grateful to share a little bit of knowledge of what has helped me, and also to navigate in a new space of navigating a face-to-face congregation into the digital age. And I'm hoping that I can share just a few nuggets with you that will help us to continue to foster more conversations as we continue to move in this new light. And so that's what we're going to talk about for just a few moments. And we're talking about navigating the face-to-face church into the virtual age, navigating the face-to-face church into the virtual age. Now, I know many of you are probably asking yourselves, like, wait a minute. We've been in COVID-19 for just about a little under 10 months now. And on top of that, we are online. We've probably got our websites up now. We've probably been established on Facebook Live, doing Facebook Live ministry. We've got our Twitter accounts. We've got every platform for social ministry that we can possibly do to expand and reach the masses from those of every birth. So what more can we add to the conversation that will help deepen and give us new relevance to what it means to navigate or to shift or to pivot this face-to-face congregations who literally had to shut down and to completely go into a virtual platform to do church. And so that's what we want to talk about for just a few moments. We're just talking about navigating the face-to-face church into the virtual age. So let's talk about that for a moment. For the next couple of moments, we want to have some conversation objectives that'll keep us in the line of where we want to go and how we want to direct our conversation for a moment. So we do want to foster a dialogical learning environment for every one of our participants who are a part of this conference. We do want to engage and understand various digital platforms and methods for engaging members and non-members alike. And then lastly, we want to be able to create and take away effective solutions for supporting pastors and ministry leaders like you and I, engaging technology at your local church, including the conflictable moments, because we do know that sometimes the change change can also bring about challenges. And sometimes we want to be able to conversate around what that means for many of us on today. So let's go ahead and get started. Let's go ahead and get talking. So let's talk about, so in order for us to get to the end point of creating those solutions, we got to understand that we do have to understand the context. And if you were a preacher, if you were a ministry leader, of course, you already know that in order to bring about solutions through the preaching moment, you always have to check the context. You always have to check the context within the in the scriptures that we preach. We also have to check the context for the people that we want to reach. We want to be able to check the context of people to get the background story to help us be able to put together the bigger picture. So let's go back just a little bit, about 10 months ago. Let's talk about March of 2020. March 2020 thrusted us into a changing context. And of course, before pre-COVID-19, of course, we know for a fact that before pre-COVID-19, we were in church. We churched. We church. We had the choirs going. We had the tambourines going. We shouted around like there was nothing left. And of course, March of 2020, COVID-19 surfaced and shut down churches, businesses, and life as we knew it. And of course, with COVID-19 shutting us down and can't meet the way that we could without killing each other, what we did find out is that COVID-19 exposed the church's detrimental dependency for an old world model that had limited sustainability. Whoa, that's a lot right there. COVID-19 exposes the church in general's detrimental dependency for an old world model that had limited sustainability. In other words, we depended upon the whole concept of physical people in physical seats kept the physical church going. And it's all about putting people in seats in order to keep the church going. And so what COVID-19 really help us unpack the question, what do we do when the church is not really available to use anymore? How does the church shift into the new focus of what it means to live in a virtual age without having a physical meeting place to go to? So what that does is that simply it helps us to unravel and unpack the question, how can we shift the church narrative from going from in person to virtual? So, but before we can even decide to unpack and ask that question, we definitely have to go before pre-COVID-19 and knowing that this old world model of physical people in physical seats actually was basically a model that was on a limited that had limited sustainability, and it was on the last strings of life support anyway. Because as the Barna Group and so many other researchers have found that most American churches, most global churches, most regular churches that you and I are pastoring, and not necessarily the mega church model ministry or the campus church pop-up ministry everywhere, but I'm talking about the storefronts, the established churches. I'm talking about those churches that have been in existence for quite some time. Those most churches are smaller, and mostly have under 100 people. Most have under 100 people. And most of those churches are older, existing for several decades, or older, existing for several decades. And basically what they found out is that the median church, and this was back in 2018 and 2019 for research purposes, that the median church size is actually around about 75 people, and that the median church age is 73 years of age. Whoa. That the median church size is 75 people, because we've been given this whole wonderful iced on a bow kind of cake, iced on cake kind of narrative for church. When we're looking at the whole concept of mega church ministries, we look at the whole concept of people on TV that are filling in the churches from left to right. We look at the pastors who have these wonderful platforms for ministry, books and movies and all those things. But the actual real church, the regular church, actually has about 75 people, and that church median age is 73 years. That includes children, and that includes grandparents, that includes those who are in between. So those persons of age that was in between. So the median church age is 73 years of age. So thinking about this and the question of how do we navigate a face-to-face church, we have to take a look into the context of that, what it means to be 73, what it means to be 73 and under, what it means for the median of the church, meaning from maybe around about, I would say about 45 years of age, all the way up until 73 or even 100. And so these are those persons who have grew up in a context of their own where church Sundays were really meant for church. They really were meant for church. They got, no matter what they did previously on Saturday night, they knew they had to be in church on Sunday morning. No matter if they were in the drinking halls, no matter if they were in the clubs, no matter if they were playing cards with their friends, or even if they were traveling out of town, they had to be in somebody's church on Sunday morning. Because the reality is, when they were growing up, they were blue laws, Southern blue laws, or even Northern blue laws, where alcohol was prohibited to sell on Sundays. And on top of that, that was in grocery stores and in stores in general. And, and if you ever grew up under that era, you probably even walked in or experienced that on a Sunday, where you walked into a store and you've actually saw the chains on the actual coolers where the beer was, to let or seen the alarm. If you had touched the door, the alarm would have went off where the alcohol was, because there was no alcohol sales consumption. There was really no cigarettes either. Anything that seems morally taboo was not discussed or not prohibited to move around on Sunday, because they really believed that Sunday was the Lord's day. And so, and then on top of that, factories were shut down, and you rarely found many people working on Sunday morning. Everybody was found in the church. Teachers were found in the church. Those who worked in the factories were found in the church. Anybody who had a job of professional stature, lawyers, doctors, everyone, even in the hospitals, were found in church on Sunday morning, because Sunday meant for them that the church was a hub for everything that they could do within their community, connections in their community, where parents could talk with their teachers and teachers could talk with parents on Sunday morning. People can connect with their local doctors in the area on Sunday morning, or make appointments or whatever the case may be, or just be able to have announcements of what's going on in the community. All the community news came from the church. And so now here we are in 2020, where we're living in a space where information doesn't necessarily come from the hub of the church, not necessarily for the community, but now we have the internet. And we are living in an informational age where we can just pick up a simple cell phone, or go to our computers, or even pick up our tablets and type in Google and ask Google or ask whatever we need, and we can have it with an instant of a finger. So how do we navigate for the fact of people who are in the culture of going to one place for church, for all their community needs, spiritual needs, and everything to there? And how do you transfer that over into a digital age to help them realize the same places, the same information that you found in the church, and the same spirituality that you found in the church can happen on an online platform, can happen through an online situation? And so here's something for us to really think about. Here's a book that I would love for every pastor, every leader here on tonight, go and get. It will be a blessing to your life. And it's actually by Nona Jones, who is a part of the Facebook executive board. And she has a book called From Social Media to Social Ministry. that will help us. And most of some of those things that we're going to be talking about actually came from her book, and it will guide us to help us to see the bigger picture. But Nona Jones actually has given us something to think about. She says, some of our church's largest budgets are dedicated to the operations that help maintain the aquarium when we've been called to be fishers of people. We've spent incredible sums of money on the building, the instruments, the lighting, the church programs, the accounting systems that don't compel anyone to go out into deep oceans or communities to win souls. Instead, we spend more money on the fraction of people in our seats than the mass of people beyond our walls. Whew, that's a lot to think about. Because here's what the problem is when it comes to navigating a face-to-face church into a new age, is that simply many of us don't realize that sometimes the church has always been compelled for us to go and to create more disciples. And through e-ministry and through social media ministry and through this world of navigating our way through a world of digital ministry, God has thrusted us into a space of knowing that the church ain't really brick and mortar, but the church is you and I are not necessarily found just on our streets or in our communities, but we as the human race is found everywhere, from Indonesia to Alaska to the north, the south, the east, the west. We are found everywhere. But the reality is that the reason why churches refuse to grow, or our churches are not able to continue to move and pivot into a new space, is because we are is because we have been taught to keep those who are in the seats happy. But the thing about it is that how can you keep someone in the seat happy if there's no longer a seat to sit in? So thinking about that going forward, because many of us, when we started this whole concept of e-ministry, we became scared. We came like, many people are not going to do this. Many people are not going to do Zoom. Many of us are not going to do Facebook. Many of us are not even doing that. But the reality is that even with the 75-year-olds and with the 50-year-olds and even 100-year-olds, many of us are going to be surprised as ministry leaders that many of us, that age group and beyond, have already been accustomed to some of the nuances of the internet, have already been accustomed to some of the nuances, even some of your of social media ministry. What do you mean by that? Because of the fact that everybody is starting to, especially in the older generation, they know just a little bit about Facebook. They might not like Facebook, but they may not like Facebook, but they know about Facebook. They might not like Twitter, but they know for the fact that the president of the United States, 45, uses Twitter as a way of communication. So they do know about something or revelatory knowledge of something that will connect them to the greater space of the world. And so our job is not necessarily now to maintain the aquarium or keeping the old world model of keeping physical persons in physical seats. But now it's our time to go and do exactly what the church has been called to do, to go out into the deep and to go be fishers and fishermen and fisherwomen, to go out into the communities, go out into the places to win souls. Because of the fact of the matter is because we don't necessarily have a meeting space anymore, as far as a physical meeting space, because of what COVID-19 has done. But we can still do the work because we are now in a place where our e-ministry, our social ministry can now reach the world, And so let's think about that. And so in this changing context, we have now learned that we have not prepared our people what we can do church online as well as the church. We have not we figured out that we have not prepared our people that we can do church online as well as the church. And so what we have realized in unpacking our question is, how do you navigate, how do you find spaces for new ways of ministry? We do have to take fault in owning the fact that we have not prepared our people that we can do church online as well as we can do church. We do church well. We shout well, we read the scripture well, we do all these things well as the church and as what church function. And we can do church online as well as we have done the church, but we have to prepare our people for the fact of the matter is that we can do church. And so sometimes people come to us when they see big changes on the horizon. So what COVID-19 has really done for us is basically, for many of us who were doing church and doing church well, we heard the concept of e-ministry. We heard of the concept of social ministry, or social online ministry. And we knew it was like kind of in the horizon. And we knew it was kind of in the horizon, and we were seeing everybody doing it around us, but we felt like it wasn't our time, or we felt like it wasn't our situation for us to do. But COVID-19 allows us to thrusted us into a whole new mission field of what was yet to come for us. And so sometimes people come to us when they see the big changes on the horizon in the external environment that will catch up with them soon. They worry that the organization or the church does not have the wherewithal to adapt and thrive in those new realities. But on the same token, when COVID-19 shut down, when COVID-19 disbanded us from meeting in physical locations, what we basically dispelled the myth that we don't have the wherewithal or the ability to adapt and thrive those new realities, because we actually jumped in and we basically navigated our way into a sink or swim moment. And many of us, praise God, we have survived. And so many of us, we survived. We automatically, when we couldn't meet anymore in the physical realm, we went automatically to our conference calls. We automatically started establishing Facebook pages for the church. We started our YouTube channels. Many of you have now started your ministries on Instagram and seeing all the great things that that you guys have conceived and concepted over the last 10 months, even in the midst of a pandemic. And so you are able to adapt and you were able to thrive in the new reality. But there is but everybody has to be on course for the concept of being able to see it, to embrace it, and to acknowledge and to be into it. So with every new form of change comes with a new set of challenges. I'll say that again. With every form of change comes with a new set of challenges, because not everybody, even though we were thrusted by COVID-19 into when we were thrusted by COVID-19 into social ministry for everybody, everybody became an e-member. So not everybody was on board. Not everybody was on board for the Facebook. Not everybody was on board for conference calls. Not everybody was on board for YouTube. We used YouTube, but we wasn't on board for using YouTube for ourselves as a dependency. And so what the reality is that in a challenging context, every form of change comes with a new set of challenges. And so not everybody was on board with the new change. And what many people resisted, is that it wasn't resisting the fact that they had to change. It's the fact, not most people fight change, it's the fact that when there's change, there's loss. And so most people really fought the whole concept of, I'm losing out on what church meant to me. I'm losing out on the whole concept of don't forsake the assembly. I'm losing out on hearing the choir on Sunday morning. I'm losing out on seeing my friends and my neighbors in front of me. I'm losing out on the personal access that I had to my pastor on Sunday morning. So they wasn't resisting the fact that they had to change, because there was no other option but to change. But they resisted they're resisting the whole concept of this whole virtual platform, because it's almost like it's replacing something that they're absolutely lost. They've lost it, and they don't know how to grieve with it. They don't know how to, worshipers didn't know how to, like, I don't want to do this. I just want to go to church. I just want to get up on Sunday morning. I just want to be able to sit in my pew. I just want to be able to put my money in the pan and not necessarily give through Givelify. I don't want to do that. So it's not necessarily resist to change, but it's simply loss. So how do we maneuver a culture of in-person worshipers belong in a virtual church? And also it adds us, ask us for the question of how, because of the resistance, how do we help people not be in resistance to the new form of change? And also, with new change, there's new people. So how do we integrate new global members into our worship experience? Because now that we're online, everybody gets to see. Everybody gets to engage. Everybody gets to experience. Some people have been waiting on these kind of moments to see what other churches are doing, and what other preachers are preaching, and what others are engaging in. And so that kind of answer calls for translation for transformation. Translation for transformation is basically taking the raw materials of what we needed for what we want people to understand, and what we want, and understanding, and having an understanding for what people are going through and what people are losing, and then taking that raw material and translating it into something for transformation when we take it to the online world. And so, with that being said, there's three C's that I want to be able to express to you on today, to help us to still answer our question. And I put my answer for translation for transformation into the 3C models. And if you want to be able to move your in-person these in-person worshipers to a virtual age and platform, simply you have to be there's a 3C model, and I call it the creativity, connectivity, and community. Creativity, connectivity, and community. These are the foundational principles that will help us to see that we can move in-person, in-face worshipers to a virtual platforms without feeling that they have lost anything, because these are the basis of what the church has always been in every situation for our lives. This is what the church has always been, a place of creativity, a place where our imaginations run wild with God, where we are able to engage each other in new planning and new development, creativity, and then connectivity, because even in the midst of creativity, it's where we connect with each other. We want to be able not only to connect with others, we want to be able to connect with God. We want to be able to connect with the spaces in our room. And then also, when you use your creativity and you're reaching with connectivity, then you are fostering developmental growth for community, because the church is a church of community. We do not forsake the assembly, because we have been called by God into community. And these are the three bases of what the church has been for those who are coming to worship and those who will continue to come to worship with you. So let's talk about these things of creativity, connectivity, and community. And so we are talking about the whole concept of creativity. Now, creativity my brothers and sisters, in a virtual platform space calls for the ability to expand horizons, not as an attention grabber, but to be mission focused. Wait a minute, I know that's a lot to say. Creativity calls for the ability to expand horizons, not as an attention grabber, but to be mission focused. And I think many of us, we have lost the way when over 10 months ago, when we started to engage live ministry or pre-recorded ministry. And how do we want to how do we want to redefine what church is on an online platform? The thing about it is that simply we went automatically for we went automatically trying to answer the question of how do we grab more likes, how do we engage more hearts, how did we for Facebook talk, how do we keep our viewers numbers up, how do we appease the people, how do we appease what's on the senses of what it is of going on. And so we thought about so as pastors we make sure that we've put a couple of cliches into our sermons, not as a way to get us thinking, but as a way to get us to be attention grabbers, because we want to make sure we keep the attention of the people who are watching us or who are connected to us. But the reality is that even in creativity, if we're going to expand our horizons on a virtual platform, many people will remain connected to you through your creativity based off of your mission, not for what you think that they want at that particular moment, because attention spans are already short. Get to the point of your mission, and to make sure that they see the mission. Whatever you're preaching on, make sure it stays to the mission. Whatever you're posting up on your pages and websites, make sure you to be mission focused on what the mission of the church is, what the mission of your local church is, what is your mission as a preacher is in that place. And creativity calls for the ability to expand horizons, to basically to be able to reinvent. So innovation in itself, reinvention is not some divine gift, but it's actually the skilled application of knowledge in new and exciting ways. It requires us to change up one's normal routine, to stepping outside of typical comfort zones and paying attention to the present moment. Whoa. Now, I know many of you are probably like scratching your head. That's really good. I'll say that again. So innovation, the ability to redefine, to recreate, and to make something new, is the actual skill gift of the application of knowledge in new and exciting ways. It requires us to change up one's normal routine by stepping outside of typical comfort zones and paying attention to the present moment. So in other words, creativity allows us to engage the present moments, to step out the old routine. Now, here's something to think about. Now, when we all had to shut down and go automatically to a ministry model, how many of us actually went to conference calls and YouTube and Facebook and actually repeated service the same way we repeated service when we was in service? So how many of us took an opportunity to check what worked, what didn't work? How do we plug in the fact that attention spans for church being in a place, it's not the same attention span of being online? Because remember, content creators normally post up videos. And normally those videos, when branding or marketing, they're normally no more than just maybe 30 seconds. Think about this in realities, because it is January. It is January, and a couple of more weeks we'll be doing the Super Bowl. And so Super Bowl Sunday, most of the funding that is normally attributed to the Super Bowl is not necessarily spent on the game. It's not necessarily spent on the players, not necessarily spent on the pay-per-view. It's mostly the biggest budget, the biggest money maker for the Super Bowl is the commercials. And normally when we're watching commercials, they're no more than just a minute or a minute and a half. So thinking about this when you're talking about when you're trying to recreate and reinvent a wheel for online ministry or e-ministry or social ministry, think about the things that work and the things that doesn't work. It's time to let go of some things that just ain't that you would love to you've been praying to get rid of. You've been praying to get rid of some things, that you definitely would not have done in service, that you have definitely done in service that you definitely wouldn't do now. This is the opportunity to throw that out, because if you're in most times in reality, here's a question that you think that you would have to even place on the table. If you don't know why you're doing it, then guess what? The people don't know why you're doing it. And if the people don't know why they're doing it in worship, then why hold on to a tradition, or why hold on to something on an online experience that you don't know? And it allows you to step out of the normal routine, to change things up, and to get outside of your typical comfort zones. Because what e-ministry does is allows us to go beyond the scope and to be in the present moment, to actually be able to be in the present moment, meaning that we can deal and address the issues that are facing our people each and every day. To be able to stand out as a church that with a mission that is focused on reaching souls, and to making sure that people are whole, and to making sure that we are ministering to the whole total man, and just not not just one space of it all. So in creativity, my brothers and sisters, God blesses us with a gift, with a fresh start. The COVID-19 blessed us with a gift of a fresh start, but we often kill it with a redo mentality. And yes, my brothers and sisters, that goes back to the fact of when we initially got into COVID-19, and COVID-19 had pushed us into e-ministry, many of us did a redo of what was on the program, a redo of what we would have normally done while we were in church. So take the blessed gift of a fresh start with being creative and being creative with fresh vision. Creativity sparks relevance in your content development and your vision. I just said with your vision and relevance in your content development. Now, I know many of you are probably scared, like, wait a minute, there's some, of course, there are some things you can and cannot post, but of course, you could still remain relevant. And people want to know, in your creativity, are you still connected to the world that you serve in? Are you still connected to the children who listens to Little Yachty? Are you still connected to, single mothers and single fathers who are still trying to find their way through parenthood? Are you still connected to us who are a little on the sage side, and thinking about insurance and end of life care, and how do we enjoy retirement? So creativity goes beyond all bounds. And on top of that, when you spark your relevance and creativity and feeds into your vision, it helps you to stand out. It helps you to stand out beyond the crowd. Do you not know, if you Google right now with your phone, your cellular device, or anything to that nature, if you just do these two words in the Google box, church online, do you know that you will get over 336,000 pop-up searches of churches to just saying church online? And that just begs us to ask the question, if there are 336,000 options online, what makes yours stand out, and what makes sure people want to connect from the church to the church online? when there are so many other options? In the same way that you were doing church, wanting them to drive to your church on Sunday morning, when they had so many options of churches before they got to your church. Because I believe some of you are, your church was not the only church in the neighborhood, and there's probably churches around on every single corner. What makes yours so different? So better yet, your creativity should spark something new to help you to stand out, to make sure that your people are still engaged with you every step of the way. Every step of the way. And I know for many of you, when you're talking about changing up one's normal routine, and it's the skill application of knowledge. Let me help you sometimes. Sometimes in our creativity, we do have to rely on the experts of media ministry. Now, I know many of us, and if you can afford paid staff on your ministry to do e-ministry and have an e-ministry minister, then that's fine. And if you don't, rely on the experts of how to create a space for e-ministry. And sometimes it may not necessarily be a working professional in the ministry, but it might be just simply your youth or your young adults who know how to navigate and know how to be creative in creating a space for ministry. Because let me help everybody. Not every preacher, not every ministry leader knows it all. We might have gifts and talents to be able to do all things, but God has not called us to do all things. But God gave others gifts and knowledges and graces for them to be able to work. So it's okay to rely on the pros, or rely on people who are a little more knowledgeable in that area that can create and bring creativity and speak your vision and to bring it to life. So with that being said, let's talk about connectivity. And we're almost through. And if you have any questions whatsoever, make sure that you are connect. I'll give you my information at the end that you can actually connect with me. So let's talk about connectivity. Connectivity, especially when you're navigating an in-person, face-to-face to worship in a digital age. People still want to feel connected. That's the whole reason why people went to church anyway, because they really wanted to feel connected to the ministry. They want to make sure that their names are heard. They want to make sure that they are there. And they wanted to be able to connect not only with the people that surrounds them, but they want to be able to connect with God. This was the pouring station. The church is the pouring station and the helping station that helps make the flow of connection between them and God. So connectivity helps define the reach. And especially in e-ministry, you want to be able to define the reach and the flow of information through a simple shared language. Yes, through a simple shared language. Connectivity helps us to define the reach. So we know why we are reaching, but now we need to define who we're reaching. So creativity is the why. But now connectivity is the who. Who are we reaching? And who do we allow this flow of information of where we want them to go? Who are they? So it helps us to define the reach. How far do we want to go with our connectivity? Because just like you and I are in several different places across the world, we want to be able to connect. So it helps us to define the reach. How far do we want to go? And what kind of information do we want to be able for everybody to hear? So everybody is on the same page when we're all on together. So we're defining the reach. And so in your e-ministries, pivoting from in-person worship to navigating a space in the digital age, so you want to be able to help those who are used to being able to sit in a seat to realize that now you're sitting in a seat in a church that reaches over the course of the world, to go and to be a part of the Great Commission, to go and to all nations. We're defining the reach. Connectivity helps us to reach beyond wherever we have been and to keep that flow of information through a simple shared language. So when you're thinking about building websites or building social media pages or building platforms for ministry in a digital age, most people remain connected when there's a simple shared language. When people begin to use the same words and with the same meaning, they communicate more effectively, they minimize misunderstandings, they gain a sense of being on the same page while even grappling with significant differences on the issues. Did you hear what I'm saying? When everybody is with a simple shared language, everybody wants to remain connected, but yet whatever the message you're giving, whatever the songs that you're singing, that continues to pour from the mission, it's got to come through a simple shared language. And I mean, not to be so simple, but to be, I'll say it like this, to be so simple that a child can even understand what you're talking about. So when people begin to use the same words and with the same meaning, they communicate more effectively. Minimize misunderstandings, because we want one thing you don't want to do, you don't want everybody to misunderstand what you're trying to do while you're online, while you're in e-ministry and being able to take and while you're navigating new folk, while you're navigating those who are doing in-person worship with you, navigating them to meet the rest of the membership that will never come to the established building, but they will remain connected with you for life. They communicate more effectively. You can create more groups and minimize understandings and gain a sense of being on the same page. That they can have conversations that I can feel. I feel the same way that my brothers and sisters do, feeling in another state or another country, and while they're grappling with significant differences on the issues. And this is where, when we're talking about connectivity, this is where you get to, it's a little more into the point of creativity, but also this is where you are using your five senses are critical to connectivity by placing the worshiper or the parishioner in the center of the reach, but connecting them straight to God, using the five senses. So when you're talking about connectivity and you're talking about the same shared language, that we're using simple shared words, the same words. So when we get into the worship space through an online platform, we're able to connect by what we see, by what you're presenting to us, the colors, the liturgical colors, if any, the prayers that you pray, that we would hear with our ears, the five senses. We see you, now we hear you. We get to reach into the taste of and the smell of communion, as if we were already in the actual church itself, taking communion for ourselves. And then being able to touch, meaning that when you invite us into praise, I'm touching my hands and lifting my hands, but I'm being able to touch you, and I can stretch my hands, but the five senses are critical to connectivity, because that's what connects us as one another. And the same way that I feel with all five of my senses, my brother or my sister should be able to feel the same way. May not be able to interpret the same way, but they'll be able to feel the same way as I do. But this is also when you're talking about connectivity, always remember to keep your message clear. Your church online should reflect the church you are serving. I'll say that again. Keep your message clear. Your church online should reflect the church you are serving. In other words, don't serve false advertisement. If you know for a fact that your church does If your church does not, your church choir don't sound the way that you present them on Sunday morning, don't do it. It's okay to use other resources. Of course, we're giving them credit, of course, because we definitely don't want to be plagiarizers. If you know that your ushers, if we ever get out of COVID-19 and we're allowed to go in, and then some of them start, and you might have an influx of visitors for a while, if your ushers ain't too happy in the mornings, and you always had a problem with them ushers, don't serve false advertisement telling the general world that your ushers are the best ushers that heaven can find. Keep your message clear. Your church online should reflect the church that you're serving. And then lastly, let's talk about community. Let's talk about community, because I want to make this very clear. No matter what form of social media that you use to do e-ministry, every social media platform success still rests from the concept of community and human belonging, and the church is no different. In other words, people want to know, not only am I connected, but am I in community? I want to know that I'm not alone in this by myself. I rejoice at the fact that when it comes to coming to church, I rejoice at the fact that I can see persons who are in faith just like I am. And so being in community is more than just having people online, but people who are created or who are connected, and also that are connected to the creativity. Because creativity is fine. Connectivity is great. But if there's no community, then the people won't stay. So it's good, even with the platforms that we use, that we should create a sense of community and make sure people feel that they are wanted and needed, and needing to know that there is a family out there for them, because Jesus invited all of us to the cross. Jesus created room for us, all of us, at the cross. And the whole concept of us in community moving from the church to heaven is the whole concept of community there. That when we leave this place and when we transition or translate ourselves to heaven, we will find a community of believers who have done the work of living right, that heaven will belong to us, and there is a community waiting for us. But while we are yet waiting for the grand community, we want to be in community here. But every social media platform success rests from the concept of community and human belonging, and the church should be no different. And so at every turn, at every moment, we should be able to continue to be able to invite, to embrace, and to be able to make sure that everyone remains to be like family. And even if you have to create smaller groups online, that's fine as well, because that what creates is fostering communities, and communities help develop us as a people, and to help us realize that we are not alone, but we are in this together. And so with that being said, those are the keys that will help us transition and help us maintain those who were in in-person worship, and fostering them into a new millennia, into a new digital age, and allow them to realize that we can worship online too, that we can engage them online, that the words, we don't necessarily have to be in a place of brick and mortar, but we can find ourselves into a place of where we need to be in this situation of life. And so if you have any questions or any concerns, if you want to know many of the different platforms that could help you navigate that could help enhance and navigate e-ministry, please feel free to email me My email address is Courtney, Courtney.Colleton at COLLETON at gmail.com. Or you can definitely reach out to me on Facebook. Under my name is Courtney Colleton, and also you can even reach my church's Facebook page, which is Historic St. James AME Church at Abbeville. You can inbox us there, and I will definitely reach out to you. Thank you guys so much for this opportunity to present, and also to give us just a couple of moments where we shared in together for this Just Lead conference. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful rest of the conference, and I hope to see you in cyberspace. Bye-bye.
I know you've been tremendously blessed over these last 30 hours of the content, the concepts, the speakers, the worship leaders, the atmosphere that you've created in your own environment as you've experienced Just Lead Conference 2021. I wanted to personally thank you for your attendance and your support of this ministry and its objectives to prepare preachers to preach. Now, don't forget, October of this year, meet us on the campus of New Orleans Baptist Theological Seminary, located right there on Gentilly Boulevard in the Big Easy. Conference information is already available for you on the website. Just go right to the registration link and you'll see the details there where you can secure lodging, your registration, and come to the campus as we experience Just Lead, the fall edition, right there at New Orleans Baptist Theological Seminary. You will be tremendously blessed. I thank you. I appreciate you. I love you, and keep on preaching. We'll see you in October. God bless you, and may heaven forever smile upon you.